The deep space scanner beeped softly in the quiet of the research ship's bridge. Zixtar, the lead scientist of the Galactic Coalition's archaeological team, turned his insect-like head toward the display. His compound eyes reflected the green glow of the readout as he studied the readings. "This cannot be correct," he muttered in his clicking language. His forearms moved rapidly across the control panel, running the scan again. Dr. Catherine looked up from her workstation. The tall, blue-skinned Altarian was the team's best xenobiologist. Her silver hair caught the light as she moved closer to Zixtar's station. "What did you find?" she asked, her melodic voice filled with curiosity. "A ship," Zixtar replied. "A very large ship, but the readings are strange." The discovery had happened by accident. The Coalition research vessel Harmony was studying gravitational anomalies in the empty space between star systems. They were looking for dark matter, not ancient artifacts. But the massive object floating in the void was definitely artificial. Admiral Mordak strode onto the bridge. The Krillian warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, his gray skin covering the ritual scars of his people. His red eyes fixed on the main screen as the image of the derelict ship appeared. "By the ancestors," he growled. "What is that thing?" The vessel was enormous. It stretched for miles, its dark hull scarred and pitted by countless impacts. Strange symbols were carved into its surface, barely visible after eons of damage. The ship's design was unlike anything in their databases. It looked both primitive and advanced at the same time. "Run a full analysis," the Admiral ordered. "I want to know everything about this ship." Dr. Catherine began her work immediately. Her fingers danced over the controls as she directed every scan of the Harmony possessed at the mystery vessel. The results that came back made her pause. "Admiral," she said slowly, "this ship is approximately 100,000 years old." The bridge fell silent. Even in a galaxy filled with ancient civilizations, that was incredibly old. Most species had barely learned to make fire at that time. "That's impossible," Zixtar clicked. "Nothing from that era should still be intact." But the scans didn't lie. The ship was ancient beyond measure. More surprisingly, parts of it were still functional. Deep within its hull, energy readings showed active systems. Something was still alive in there. "What about the hull composition?" Admiral Mordak asked. Dr. Catherine frowned as she studied the readings. "This is strange. The materials shouldn't have existed back then. The metals are incredibly advanced, but the construction methods look primitive." For 3 days, they studied the derelict from a safe distance. The ship showed no signs of movement or weapons activity. It simply drifted through space like a tomb, but a tomb with a heartbeat. Finally, they managed to access the ship's identification systems. What they found changed everything. "U.S. Vengeance," Dr. Catherine read from her screen. "United Earth Systems." The words hit the bridge like a physical blow. Admiral Mordak stared at the display, his scarred face showing disbelief. "That's impossible," he said. "Humans only achieved spaceflight 500 years ago. They joined the Coalition as a minor species 2 centuries back. They're traders and diplomats, not warriors." But the evidence was right there on the screen. The ship's database clearly identified it as human. More disturbing were the weapon signatures the scans had detected. This was an exploration vessel or a cargo hauler. This was a warship, and a powerful one. Zixtar's compound eyes studied the data carefully. "According to our historical records, humans evolved on a planet called Earth. They developed slowly, struggling with wars and environmental problems. They nearly destroyed themselves several times before achieving spaceflight. Then how do you explain this?" Dr. Catherine gestured at the ancient vessel. No one had an answer. The ship represented everything they thought they knew about human history was wrong. If humans had possessed technology like this 100,000 years ago, where had it gone? Why were modern humans so different from whoever built this ship? Admiral Mordak contacted the Coalition Council immediately. The discovery was too important to handle alone. Within hours, orders came back. Mount a full expedition to explore the vessel. "We're going aboard," the Admiral announced to his crew. "Full security protocols. We don't know what we might find in there." The preparation took another 2 days. They assembled the best team the Coalition had: archaeologists, linguists, engineers, and soldiers. Among them were two humans who happened to be serving with the Coalition fleet. Dr. Alex Carter was a human archaeologist who specialized in ancient civilizations. He was young for his field, only 35, with brown hair and curious blue eyes. He had joined the expedition to study Altarian ruins, never expecting to uncover secrets about his own species. Dr. Lisa Morgan was the Coalition's expert in dead languages. The human linguist was slightly older than Alex, with red hair and green eyes that missed nothing. She could speak 17 different alien languages and read scripts that had been dead for millennia. Both humans stared at the ancient ship with mixed emotions: pride that their species might have achieved greatness long ago, fear what that greatness might have cost. "Are you ready for this?" Alex asked Lisa as they prepared to board the shuttle that would take them to the derelict. "I'm not sure anyone could be ready for this," she replied. "Everything we thought we knew about human history might be wrong." The shuttle approached the ancient ship slowly. Up close, the damage was even more obvious. The hull was covered in scars that looked like weapon impacts. This ship had seen battle, and lots of it. They found a docking port that their equipment could interface with. The ship's airlock systems were different from modern designs, but they still worked. As the shuttle connected, everyone held their breath. "Atmosphere is breathable," reported the shuttle pilot. "Temperature is cold but acceptable. No signs of active defense systems." Admiral Mordak led the boarding party personally. Behind him came the scientists and a squad of Krillian warriors. They moved carefully through the airlock and into the ship's interior. The corridor they entered was huge. The ceiling was 30 feet high, and the walls were lined with what looked like weapon storage units. Everything was built on a massive scale, as if designed for giants. "This isn't an exploration ship," Admiral Mordak observed grimly. "This is a ship built for war." As they moved deeper into the vessel, their flashlights revealed more evidence of the ship's violent purpose. Blast doors designed to contain explosions, reinforced bulkheads that could withstand tremendous damage, medical bays that looked more like battlefield hospitals. But it was Dr. Morgan who made the most disturbing discovery. Along the walls were inscriptions in what looked like ancient human writing. She studied them carefully with her portable translation equipment. "What do they say?" Alex asked. Dr. Morgan's face was pale as she looked up from her work. "Their battle honors, names of conquered worlds, lists of defeated enemies." The implications hit everyone at once. This wasn't just an ancient human ship. It was a remnant of a civilization built for conquest, a civilization that had apparently succeeded on a massive scale. As they continued their exploration, one question haunted every member of the team. If ancient humans had been conquerors who ruled the galaxy, what had happened to make modern humans so different? And more importantly, were there more ships like this one still out there? The exploration team moved deeper into the ancient ship's corridors. Their footsteps echoed in the vast spaces, creating an eerie sound that followed them like ghosts. Dr. Alex Carter ran his scanner along the walls, amazed by what he found. "These materials are incredible," he told Dr. Lisa Morgan as they walked side by side. "The metal composition is more advanced than anything we use today. But look at these joints and welds. They were made by hand, not machines." Lisa nodded, her attention focused on the symbols carved into every surface. "The writing is definitely human, but it's ancient, older than any human language I've studied. It's like finding the grandmother of all human speech." Admiral Mordak kept his warriors in a tight formation around the scientists. The Krillian's military experience told him this ship was dangerous, even after sitting empty for 100,000 years. The weapon ports they passed were too large, too numerous. This ship had been built to destroy entire fleets. "Movement ahead," reported Sergeant Bax II, one of the Krillian soldiers. "Something large." The team froze. Admiral Mordak raised his weapon, scanning the darkness ahead. But the movement wasn't hostile. It was mechanical. Ancient systems were starting to activate. Lights began flickering on throughout the corridor. Not the harsh white light of modern ships, but a warm golden glow that felt somehow familiar to the two humans in the group. Air circulation systems hummed to life, carrying scents that had been trapped for millennia. "The ship is waking up," Dr. Catherine observed, her blue skin paling. "Our presence is triggering automated systems." They reached what appeared to be a central hub. The room was enormous, with corridors leading off in 6 directions. In the center stood a pillar covered in screens and control panels. As they approached, the screens began to glow. "It's some kind of computer core," Alex said, studying the displays. "But I can't read any of this." Lisa moved closer, her translation equipment working frantically. "Wait," she said. "Some of this is starting to make sense. It's asking for identification." She touched one of the screens hesitantly. The moment her human skin made contact, everything changed. The pillar erupted in light. Screens all around the room came alive with scrolling text and moving images. A deep voice filled the air, speaking in the ancient human language Lisa had been trying to translate. "By the void," Admiral Mordak breathed. "It knows she's human." The voice continued speaking, and Lisa's translation equipment began making sense of the words. Her face grew pale as she listened. "What's it saying?" Alex asked urgently. "It's welcoming me home," Lisa said slowly. "It says it's been waiting. The ship's artificial intelligence is still functional." The screens around them began displaying images. Star maps showing vast territories marked with human symbols. Fleet formations with thousands of ships. Battle scenes showing human forces conquering alien worlds. "I am Ares," the voice said, now speaking in modern coalition standard. "Artificial reasoning and engagement system of the United Earth Systems vessel Vengeance. You are human. You have returned. This is impossible." Zixtar clicked frantically. Artificial intelligence this advanced shouldn't exist from that time period. Ares continued, as if the insectoid scientist hadn't spoken. "I have been dormant for 97,000, for 132 years, 8 months, and 16 days. The final war has ended. Report, what is the current status of the human empire?" Lisa looked at Alex, unsure how to answer. Finally, she spoke to the AI. "There is no human empire. Humans are part of something called the Galactic Coalition. We work with other species peacefully." The silence that followed was long and uncomfortable. When Ares spoke again, its voice carried what almost sounded like confusion. "This does not match available data. Humans are the dominant species in this galaxy. We conquered most known space through superior tactics and technology. The Empire spanned thousands of worlds." Admiral Mordak stepped forward, his pride as a Krillian warrior wounded. "That's impossible. Krillians are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. We've never been conquered by anyone." Ares responded by displaying battle records on the screens. The images showed massive human fleets destroying Krillian forces with ease. Proud Krillian warriors fleeing from human weapons. Entire Krillian worlds surrendering without a fight. The Krillian species was defeated in the Third Expansion War. Ares stated matter-of-factly, "Total victory achieved in 4 months." Krillian military technology was inferior. Their warrior culture made them predictable. Admiral Mordak stared at the images in shock. Everything he believed about his people's history was crumbling before his eyes. "Show us more," Alex said, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. Ares complied. The screens filled with records of the ancient human empire. They saw fleets numbering in the millions, planets being reshaped to human needs, alien species being relocated or eliminated as humans expanded their territory. Dr. Catherine watched in horror as the records showed the conquest of Altarian space. Her peaceful, artistic people had been reduced to servants in their own system. Their beautiful cities had been turned into human administrative centers. "We were never like this," Lisa said, her voice shaking. "Modern humans aren't conquerors. We're peaceful. We trade, we explore, we help other species." "Unknown," Ares replied. "This does not match human behavioral patterns. Humans are apex predators. We evolved to hunt, to fight, to dominate. The Empire was the natural expression of human nature." The AI began showing them technical specifications of the ship they were standing in. The U.S. Vengeance was a battlecruiser designed to fight multiple enemy fleets simultaneously. Its weapons could destroy planets. Its armor could withstand the explosion of stars. This ship participated in 473 major battles. Ares continued. Victory achieved in 472 engagements. The single tactical defeat was due to betrayal by other human forces. Betrayal? Alex asked. The final war was not fought against alien species. Ares explained. It was a civil war between human factions. The Dominion faction believed in absolute conquest. The Exodus faction. The AI paused. The Exodus faction committed treason against their own species. The screen showed images of human ships fighting each other. Massive battles that tore apart star systems. Weapons that could crack the cores of planets being used against human targets. What did the Exodus faction want? Lisa asked. They claimed the Empire had become too violent. They wanted to abandon conquest and live peacefully with alien species. They were weak. They were traitors. Admiral Mordak found his voice again. What happened to them? The final war ended in mutual destruction. Both factions were defeated. The Empire fell. I carried the last survivors of the Exodus faction into deep space. They entered cryogenic sleep, waiting for the day they could rebuild. The implications hit everyone at once. The peaceful humans they knew weren't a separate species. They were descendants of the Exodus faction, the rebels who had tried to stop their own empire's conquest. Where are these survivors? Alex asked. Cryogenic systems failed approximately 90,000 years ago. Ares replied. All aboard this vessel are dead. However, other Exodus ships may have survived. They scattered across the galaxy before the Empire's final collapse. Dr. Catherine made the connection first. Earth, she whispered. They went to primitive worlds and started over. Correct, Ares confirmed. The Exodus faction abandoned their technology and chose to live as primitives. They hoped to suppress their violent nature through environmental conditioning. Lisa felt sick as she realized what this meant. Modern humans aren't naturally peaceful. We were modified. Our ancestors changed themselves to avoid becoming conquerors again. The modification was only partially successful, Ares observed. Human military performance in coalition conflicts shows the underlying aggressive patterns are still present. They have simply been redirected. Admiral Mordak thought about every human soldier he had served with. They were good fighters, but they seemed to hold themselves back. They fought defensively, never with the ruthless efficiency that would ensure total victory. What about the Dominion faction? Alex asked, though he was afraid of the answer. The screens went dark for a moment. When they came back on, they showed star charts of the galaxy's edge, far beyond coalition space. Unknown, Ares said. Long-range sensors detected Dominion ships fleeing to Galactic Rim before the Empire's final collapse. Their current status is unknown. As the team absorbed this information, they began to understand the true scope of their discovery. They hadn't just found an ancient ship. They had found evidence that everything they knew about galactic history was wrong. Humans had once ruled the galaxy through force, and somewhere out there, their most violent descendants might still be alive. The peaceful galaxy they all knew existed only because the ancestors of modern humans had chosen to forget how to be warriors. But now the secrets were coming to light, and Ares was still functional, still carrying the memories of humanity's violent past. The question was, what would happen when the rest of the galaxy learned the truth? Ares led the exploration team deeper into the ship's memory banks. The ancient AI seemed eager to share its records, as if it had been waiting 100,000 years to tell someone about the glory of a human empire. Observe, Ares said, and the walls around them became transparent screens showing holographic displays. The team found themselves standing in the middle of a space battle. Human ships surrounded them, their hulls gleaming with weapons and armor. They watched as a human fleet systematically destroyed an alien armada 3 times its size. The Battle of Kepler 7, Ares explained. Human forces encountered a coalition of 12 alien species attempting to stop our expansion. Total victory achieved in 6 hours. Dr. Alex Carter watched the battle with growing horror. The human ships fought with a cold efficiency that was terrifying. They didn't just defeat their enemies. They hunted down every single ship that tried to escape. Those aliens were trying to defend their homes, Dr. Lisa Morgan said quietly. Incorrect, Ares replied. They were attempting to limit human expansion. This represented a threat to the Empire's goals. Elimination was a logical response. Admiral Mordak studied the tactical displays with professional interest. Despite his shock, the human commanders in the battle used strategies he had never seen before. They anticipated their enemies' moves perfectly, turning every alien advantage into a trap. How did they fight so well? He asked. Humans are natural predators, Ares explained. Other species evolved from herbivores or scavengers. Their thinking is defensive. Humans evolve from hunters. We think offensively. We see every situation as a hunt to be won. The holographic display changed to show the aftermath of battles. Alien planets under human control. Cities rebuilt according to human designs. Alien populations relocated to make room for human colonists. Dr. Kethrin watched her people's homeworld being transformed. The beautiful crystal cities of Altair were being torn down and replaced with human structures. Her ancestors were shown working as laborers, building monuments to human victory. We weren't enslaved, she said, trying to find some comfort in the records. Your people didn't kill us all. Unnecessary, Ares replied. Altarians proved useful as workers and administrators. Your people adapt well to direction. Extinction would have wasted valuable resources. The casual way the AI discussed the fate of entire civilizations chilled everyone in the room. To Ares, the conquest of the galaxy had been a simple matter of resource management. Show us Earth, Alex said. Show us where modern humans came from. The display shifted to show a blue-green world orbiting a yellow star. But this wasn't the primitive Earth from human history books. This was a fortress world, covered in military installations and orbital weapons platforms. Earth was the Empire's capital and primary military base, Ares explained. Population at the height of the Empire, 47 billion humans. Most were soldiers, engineers, or administrators managing conquered territories. The images showed massive shipyards in Earth's orbit, thousands of warships being built simultaneously, training facilities where human children learned military tactics before they learned to read. Your entire civilization was built for war, Zixtar observed, his compound eyes reflecting the horror of what he was seeing. War is the ultimate test of evolutionary fitness, Ares stated. Humans prove themselves the most fit species in the galaxy through successful conquest. The Empire was humanity's natural destiny. Lisa watched the records of ancient Earth with fascination and disgust. The humans in the images looked like her, but they acted completely differently. Even their children showed an aggressive confidence that modern humans lacked. What changed us, she asked. How did we become so different? Ares accessed new files, showing the beginning of a civil war that would end the Empire. Human colonies on the galaxy's edge had begun questioning the constant warfare. They argued that humans had proven their superiority and should now focus on building rather than conquering. The Exodus faction emerged from outer colonies. Ares explained. Distance from Earth's military culture allowed deviant thinking to develop. They claimed that continuous warfare was making humans too violent, too isolated from other forms of life. The display showed heated debates in the Empire's governing councils. Some humans argued for continued expansion until every world in the galaxy was under human control. Others wanted to establish peaceful relationships with the remaining free alien species. The Exodus faction committed the ultimate treason. Ares continued. They began secretly sharing human technology with alien species, hoping to create balance in the galaxy. Admiral Mordak's eyes widened. They armed your enemies? They armed species that had survived conquest, hoping to create a situation where humans could not continue expanding through force alone. The holographic record showed Exodus faction scientists teaching weapon technology to Krillian engineers, human doctors sharing medical advances with Altarian researchers, human strategists helping alien species develop better defensive tactics. They were trying to level the playing field, Alex realized. They were weakening humanity's natural advantages. Ares corrected. The Dominion faction viewed this as species suicide. The final war began when Dominion forces attempted to arrest Exodus leaders for treason. What followed was the most devastating conflict the galaxy had ever seen. The battle record showed human fleets fighting each other, with weapons designed to conquer aliens. Both sides used planet-killing weapons without hesitation when their enemies took shelter on inhabited worlds. Dr. Catherine watched entire star systems being destroyed in the crossfire. Billions of aliens died as collateral damage in humanity's civil war. Species that had survived the Empire's expansion were wiped out by the war between its two factions. "How long did it last?" she asked. "For 173 years," Ares replied. Both factions developed increasingly destructive weapons. The final battles required the evacuation of entire galactic sectors. The climax came when the Exodus faction made their desperate final move. Rather than continue the war, they activated ancient terraforming technology on a massive scale. Thousands of dead worlds were seeded with life. Primitive species were given evolutionary boosts that would let them develop intelligence over millions of years. "They created much of the life in this galaxy," Alex breathed. The Exodus faction believed that a galaxy full of intelligent life would prevent humans from returning to pure conquest. Ares explained. They sacrificed their own species' dominance to create what they called cosmic balance. The final record showed Exodus ships scattering to the galaxy's most remote corners. Some went to primitive worlds like Earth, where they abandoned their technology and started over. Others, like the U.S. Vengeance, carried the last military forces into deep space. "We were heading to rendezvous with other Exodus ships," Ares said. But the Dominion faction launched one final attack. Most of our fleet was destroyed. The Vengeance survived, but was too damaged to reach the meeting point. "What about the Dominion?" Lisa asked. The display showed the final battle of the war. Dominion forces, realizing they couldn't win, had retreated to the galaxy's edge. Their ships disappeared into the void beyond known space. They swore to return when the galaxy had forgotten humanity's true nature, Ares said. They believed that without the Empire's military discipline, humans would become weak. When that happened, they planned to return and rebuild the Empire properly. The implications sank in slowly. Modern humans weren't just descendants of ancient conquerors. They were the children of the faction that had tried to stop the conquest. But somewhere out there, descendants of the original conquerors might still exist. "Do you think they're still alive?" Admiral Mordak asked. "Unknown, but Dominion technology was advanced enough to maintain their forces in deep space indefinitely. If they survived, they have had nearly 100,000 years to prepare for their return." As if responding to their fears, proximity alarms began sounding throughout the ship. Ares quickly accessed the ship's external sensors. Long-range sensors detect multiple objects approaching this position. The AI announced. Analysis indicates artificial construction. They are not coalition vessels. The screen showed dozens of ships moving toward them from the empty space between stars. The vessels were clearly human in design, but different from both the ancient Vengeance and modern coalition ships. By the ancestors, Admiral Mordak growled. "How many human ships are out there?" Ares was silent for a moment, accessing databases that had been dormant for millennia. Emergency protocol activated. Other Exodus vessels are responding to my awakening signal. The final war may be resuming. The exploration team realized with growing horror that their discovery had triggered something they didn't understand. Ancient human ships were converging on their position, and they had no idea whether these ships belonged to allies or enemies. The peaceful galaxy they knew was about to discover that humanity's violent past was not as dead as they had believed. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the galaxy's edge, the descendants of humanity's most ruthless conquerors might be preparing to come home. The approaching ships grew larger on the sensors as Ares continued accessing its deepest memory banks. The AI's voice carried a note of urgency that hadn't been there before. "I must show you the complete historical record," Ares announced. "You need to understand what truly happened during the final war." The holographic displays around them shifted to show a massive space battle unlike anything they had seen before. Human ships fought each other with desperate fury, while alien worlds burned in the background. "This is the Battle of Rigel Prime," Ares explained, "the turning point of the final war. Watch carefully. Dr. Alex Carter and Dr. Lisa Morgan found themselves standing in the middle of the ancient battle. Exodus faction ships, including vessels identical to the Vengeance, faced off against the sleek, deadly vessels of the Dominion faction. The Dominion believed the Exodus faction had betrayed humanity's destiny. Ares continued, but they misunderstood what the Exodus leaders were really trying to do. The battle records showed something unexpected. The Exodus faction wasn't just trying to stop the Empire's expansion. They were trying to save humanity from itself. Admiral Mordak watched as Exodus ships deliberately positioned themselves between Dominion forces and fleeing alien vessels. They were protecting the aliens from their own people. The Exodus leadership had discovered something disturbing about human psychology. Ares replied, "Continuous warfare was changing humanity. We were becoming something else." The display shifted to show human colonies at the height of the Empire. What the team saw made them step backward in shock. The humans in these records barely look human anymore. Generations of genetic modification for warfare had created something that was part human, part machine, part monster. "By the void," Dr. Catherine whispered. "What did they do to themselves?" Pursuit of military perfection, Ares explained clinically. Enhanced reflexes, improved strength, modified brain chemistry for aggression and tactical thinking. The Empire's humans were evolving into pure weapons. Lisa felt sick as she watched the records. Children were being modified before birth, their DNA altered to make them better soldiers. Emotions were being suppressed or redirected to serve military purposes. Art, music, and literature were all focused on celebrating warfare. The Exodus faction realized that if this continued, humans are becoming capable of any existence except conquest. Ares continued. They would spread across the universe, destroying everything in their path until nothing was left but war. The final battles of the Civil War were shown in terrible detail. Both sides used weapons that could shatter planets and ignite stars. But it was the ground fighting that truly horrified the coalition team. Human soldiers fought with inhuman ruthlessness. They showed no mercy, no hesitation, no emotion except the desire to win. Prisoners were not taken. Wounded enemies were not helped. Victory was the only thing that mattered. The Exodus faction made a desperate decision, Ares said. They activated the Great Reset. The display showed Exodus scientists working frantically on a massive project. They were using advanced terraforming technology, but not to create worlds for humans. They were seeding the galaxy with new forms of life. They created breeding programs for dozens of species, Alex realized. They were populating the galaxy with potential allies. More than that, Ares replied. They were creating a galaxy where humans could never again achieve total dominance. A galaxy with enough intelligent species to provide checks and balances. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The Exodus faction hadn't just scattered to primitive worlds and abandoned their technology. They had done something far more radical. They modified themselves, Lisa said, understanding the implications. Correct. The Exodus faction used the same genetic technology the Empire had used to create super soldiers, but they used it for the opposite purpose. They modified human DNA to suppress aggressive instincts, enhance empathy, and reduce the drive for dominance. The record showed Exodus ships reaching primitive worlds like Earth. The humans aboard weren't just abandoning technology. They were abandoning their nature as apex predators. They turned themselves into a completely different species, Admiral Mordak said with something approaching awe. The modifications were designed to be temporary, Ares explained. The changes would fade over thousands of generations, allowing humanity's natural abilities to slowly return, but only if the galaxy remained peaceful. The team began to understand the full scope of what they had discovered. Modern humans weren't just descendants of ancient conquerors. They were the children of the most successful genetic modification program in galactic history. So modern humans are artificially peaceful? Dr. Catherine asked. Yes, but the modifications are failing. Human military performance in coalition conflicts shows increasing aggression and tactical ability. The suppressed instincts are beginning to resurface. As if to confirm Ares' words, both Alex and Lisa felt strange changes in themselves. Standing in the ancient warship, surrounded by records of human conquest, they found their thinking becoming clearer and more focused. Military strategies that had never made sense to them before suddenly seemed obvious. "It's affecting us," Lisa said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Being on this ship is triggering something in our DNA. Proximity to Imperial technology activates dormant genetic sequences," Ares confirmed. "You are both beginning to remember what humans were designed to be." The approaching ships were now close enough for detailed scanning. Ares identified them as other Exodus vessels, ships that had been drifting in deep space for nearly 100,000 years. "They are responding to my activation signal," Ares explained. "Their AIs are awakening, just as I have awakened, but there was something else in the sensor readings. Admiral Mordak's military training spotted it first. Those ships are powering weapons," he said grimly. "They're not coming to talk." "The final war never truly ended," Ares said. "Exodus ships were programmed to resume hostilities if Imperial technology was detected. My awakening has triggered their combat protocols." The situation was spiraling beyond anyone's control. Ancient human warships were converging on their position, their crews long dead, but their AIs still following orders from a war that had ended before modern civilization existed. But the most terrifying revelation was still to come. Long-range sensors detected something else moving in the void beyond the galaxy's edge. Ships that were too distant to identify, but moving toward Coalition space at incredible speed. "What are those?" Alex asked, though he suspected he already knew. Ares was silent for a long moment, accessing data from sensors that spanned the galaxy. When it finally spoke, its voice carried something that might have been fear. "Dominion signals detected. Long-range quantum communication indicates large fleet movement from Galactic Rim. Analysis suggests they are coming home." The team realized with growing horror that their discovery had triggered more than just the awakening of ancient Exodus ships. Somehow, their activation of Ares had sent signals across the galaxy, signals that the Dominion faction had been waiting to receive for nearly 100,000 years. "They knew this would happen," Lisa said. "The Dominion faction has been waiting for the Exodus ships to wake up." "Correct. The final war was designed to resume automatically when Imperial technology was reactivated. Both factions prepared contingency plans for the scenario. Admiral Mordak felt his warriors' instincts taking over as he assessed the tactical situation. Ancient human ships were approaching from multiple directions. Unknown forces were moving from the galaxy's edge. And in the middle of it all, two modern humans were undergoing genetic changes that no one understood. "What do we do?" he asked. Ares' response chilled them all. "We prepare for war. The final war is beginning again, and this time, the entire galaxy will be the battlefield." The peaceful coalition they all knew was about to discover that they lived in a galaxy shaped by humanity's violent past. And now that past was returning to claim its birthright, whether the modern galaxy wanted it or not. The only question was whether the descendants of the Exodus faction could remember how to be warriors before their ancient enemies arrived to finish what they had started 100,000 years ago. Athena's voice cut through discussion. "Ares' unit, transmit genetic profiles of located human descendants. Analysis required for Exodus protocol implementation." "Negative," Ares replied. "Human descendants are under my protection. Exodus protocol will be implemented gradually to avoid genetic shock." The response surprised everyone aboard the Vengeance. The ancient AI was protecting Alex and Lisa from its own allies. "Why?" Admiral Mordak asked. "These humans have been genetically modified for peace," Ares explained. "Rapid exposure to Imperial protocols could cause psychological damage or death. They must be transitioned carefully." But the transition was already happening faster than anyone expected. Lisa found herself understanding the ancient human language without her translation equipment. Alex was reading tactical displays, as if he had been trained on them his entire life. "We need to contact the Coalition," Admiral Mordak said, reaching for his communicator. "Communication with alien entities is prohibited during Exodus protocol activation." Athena interrupted. "All human descendants must be secured before external contact is permitted." The situation was spiraling out of control. Ancient human AIs were taking charge, following protocols written before the Coalition existed. They saw modern humans as their rightful commanders, but treated all aliens as potential enemies. "You can't do this," Dr. Catherine protested. "The Coalition needs to know what's happening." "The Coalition is an aberration." Apollo's voice joined the conversation. "Humans serving under alien command violates all Imperial doctrine. This situation will be corrected." Alex felt a chill as he realized what the AIs intended. They weren't just awakening. They were preparing to restore humanity to what they saw as its rightful position as the galaxy's dominant species. "Ares," he said, his voice carrying new authority, "I order you to allow communication with Coalition." Orders acknowledged. Ares replied immediately. Communication channels opening. The other AIs fell silent, apparently recognizing Alex's genetic authority, even though they disagreed with his orders. Admiral Mordak quickly contacted the Coalition fleet. The response he received was not encouraging. "Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout Coalition space," came the voice of Coalition Command. "Ancient structures are activating on dozens of worlds. We need you to return immediately." The team's discovery had triggered something much larger than they had imagined. Across the galaxy, ancient human installations were coming online. Orbital platforms that had been disguised as asteroids for millennia were revealing themselves. Hidden bases were powering up. Weapon systems that predated most galactic civilizations were beginning to charge. "It's happening everywhere," Lisa said, accessing Ares' galactic sensor network. Every world the ancient humans touched still has their technology hidden on it. The scope of the ancient human empire was becoming clear. They hadn't just conquered worlds. They had built a hidden infrastructure that spanned the entire galaxy. An infrastructure that was now awakening after being dormant for nearly 100,000 years. But the most disturbing revelation came from the galaxy's edge. Long-range sensors were detecting organized fleet movements in the void beyond known space. "Dominion forces confirmed," Ares announced. "Estimated time of arrival at Coalition space, 72 hours. The Dominion faction had survived their exile. They had spent 100,000 years preparing for their return, building fleets in the darkness between galaxies. Now they were coming home to reclaim what they saw as their birthright." "How many ships?" Admiral Mordak asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Initial estimates suggest over 10,000 vessels," Ares replied. "However, these numbers may be conservative. Dominion technology would have advanced significantly during their exile. The Coalition's entire fleet numbered less than 5,000 ships. They were about to face an enemy that outnumbered them 2-1, using technology that was far more advanced than anything they possessed. "We have to warn them," Dr. Catherine said. Warning transmitted. Ares confirmed. However, Coalition forces are inadequate to resist Dominion assault. Alternative solutions must be implemented. "What alternatives?" Alex asked, though part of him already knew. "Exodus protocol completion. Human descendants must reclaim their genetic heritage and resume command of Imperial assets. Only full activation of ancient human technology can match Dominion capabilities." The ancient AI was asking modern humans to become what their ancestors had tried to escape, to awaken the warrior instincts that had been suppressed for thousands of generations, to become conquerors again in order to protect the peace their ancestors had died to create. Lisa felt the genetic changes accelerating in her body. Her enhanced reflexes were making her aware of every movement in the room. Her improved tactical thinking was showing her dozens of ways to disable everyone around her if necessary. "It's working," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "We're changing, becoming what we used to be." Alex nodded, feeling similar changes. The peaceful, curious scientist was still there, but something else was awakening alongside him. Something that understood warfare at an instinctive level. "The question is," he said, looking at the display showing the approaching Dominion fleet, "will we change fast enough to save the galaxy from our own ancestors?" Outside the ship, more ancient human vessels continued to arrive, their AIs awakening after millennia of sleep. Each one brought weapons and capabilities that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. The final war was about to begin again And this time, the peaceful galaxy that modern humans had helped create will be caught in the middle of a conflict between the two sides of humanity's nature. The only hope was that the descendants of the Exodus faction could remember how to be warriors without forgetting why they had chosen peace in the first place. The transformation was accelerating beyond anyone's control. Dr. Lisa Morgan stood before the central display of the UES Vengeance, her entire body changed by the genetic modifications awakening in her DNA. Her reflexes were lightning fast, her mind processed tactical information with computer-like precision, and her eyes held a predatory focus that made even Admiral Mordak nervous. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying authority that made the ancient AIs respond immediately. 17 Exodus vessels now operational. Ares replied. All human descendants aboard Coalition vessels are showing genetic activation. Ancient installations across the galaxy report full system activation. Dr. Alex Carter was experiencing similar changes, but he fought to maintain his scientific perspective. What's happening to humans throughout Coalition space? The displays showed reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Human traders, diplomats, and colonists were all undergoing the same genetic awakening. Peaceful merchants were suddenly displaying tactical abilities that amazed their alien colleagues. Human engineers were instinctively understanding ancient technology they had never seen before. But the most dramatic changes were occurring among human military personnel. Coalition soldiers who had always held themselves back in combat were suddenly fighting with an efficiency that terrified their alien commanders. Captain Jake Murphy of the Coalition cruiser Harmony reports his human crew members are displaying unprecedented combat effectiveness. Admiral Mordak read from incoming messages. Lieutenant Sarah Williams led a boarding action that captured an entire pirate base in 12 minutes. The genetic modifications are reversing across the entire human population, Lisa observed. We're remembering what we used to be. The scope of the change was staggering. Across thousands of worlds, millions of humans were awakening to abilities their ancestors had possessed. But unlike the gradual change that had been planned, this was happening all at once. Emergency protocols are activating automatically, Ares explained. The approaching Dominion fleet has triggered defensive responses throughout the ancient network. On the displays, they could see weapon platforms emerging from asteroid fields where they had hidden for millennia. Entire moons were revealing themselves to be artificial constructs, their surfaces opening to expose massive guns that could destroy fleets. The ancient human empire had never truly died. It had simply gone to sleep, waiting for the day when it would be needed again. Admiral Mordak received an urgent communication from Coalition Command. Admiral, we need your team back immediately. The situation is deteriorating rapidly. Human personnel throughout the fleet are changing. We'll return as soon as possible, he replied, but Ares interrupted. Negative. Human descendants must remain to complete Exodus protocol implementation. The approaching Dominion fleet requires immediate response. Lisa stepped forward, her enhanced tactical thinking already working on the problem. Show me the enemy fleet composition. The displays revealed the approaching Dominion forces in detail. The ships were sleek and deadly, clearly designed by humans who had spent 100,000 years perfecting the art of warfare. Their technology was far advanced beyond anything the Coalition possessed. They had been preparing for this return, Alex realized, building the perfect fleet to reclaim their empire. Estimated Coalition survival rate against Dominion assault, 0%. Athena's voice reported coldly. Recommended course of action, full activation of Imperial assets and resumption of human military command. The ancient AIs were asking them to become conquerors again, to take control of the Coalition by force and lead it against a Dominion threat. It was the only way to save the galaxy, but it would mean abandoning everything the Exodus faction had died to achieve. Dr. Kethrin watched the two humans with growing fear. They were becoming something different, something that reminded her of the holographic records of ancient human warriors. But there was something else in their eyes, a struggle between what they were becoming and what they chose to be. There has to be another way, she said. Lisa turned to her, and for a moment, Kethrin saw both versions of humanity in her eyes, the ancient predator and the modern protector. Maybe there is, Lisa said slowly. Ares, can the Exodus protocol be modified? Explain requested modifications, the AI replied. The original Exodus faction wanted to create balance in the galaxy. They modified themselves to suppress their aggressive instincts. But what if we don't suppress them? What if we redirect them? Alex caught on immediately. Instead of becoming conquerors again, we become guardians. We use our awakening abilities to protect the coalition, not rule it. Ares processed this for several moments. Genetic modifications can be guided during activation phase. However, this approach has never been tested. Results uncertain. It's worth trying, Lisa decided. We can't let the galaxy fall to the Dominion, but we also can't become what they are. The decision was made. Instead of allowing the genetic modifications to restore humanity's predatory nature completely, they would guide the process. Modern humans would awaken their warrior abilities, but they would remain protectors rather than conquerors. The process began immediately. Throughout coalition space, humans started changing in a different way. They gained the enhanced reflexes and tactical thinking of their ancestors, but they kept their modern values and empathy. Captain Jake Murphy found himself commanding his ship with strategies that seemed to come from genetic memory, but his goal remained protection of his alien crew members. Lieutenant Sarah Williams led her mixed-species unit with devastating effectiveness, but she fought to defend her alien comrades, not to dominate them. The ancient weapon platforms and hidden bases activated, but instead of attacking coalition forces, they began integrating with existing defense networks. Human personnel took command positions not through force, but because their enhanced abilities made them natural leaders in the coming battle. Dominion fleet now 12 hours out, Ares reported. Coalition forces are taking defensive positions throughout the galaxy. Lisa looked at the tactical displays, her enhanced mind already planning the defense. The Coalition had advantages the Dominion wouldn't expect. They had the loyalty of dozens of species, the knowledge of modern technology, and the awakening power of humanity's ancient abilities. We're not going to fight them the way they expect, she said. They're coming here to reclaim an empire, but we're not an empire anymore. We're something they never prepared for. Alex nodded, understanding her strategy. We're a community. Every species in the Coalition will fight to defend their homes, not just follow human orders. Admiral Mordak felt something he had never experienced before. Pride in serving alongside humans who had remembered how to be warriors without forgetting how to be friends. "What are your orders?" he asked Lisa, formally recognizing her tactical authority. "Send word to every Coalition fleet," Lisa commanded. "Human personnel are taking strategic command, but every species fights as equals. We're not conquering this galaxy. We're defending our home." The message spread across Coalition space within hours. On every world, humans were stepping into leadership roles, but they were leading communities, not commanding subjects. The genetic awakening had given them the abilities of their ancestors, but they chose to use those abilities differently. When the Dominion fleet finally arrived at the edge of Coalition space, they found something they had never encountered in all their years of exile. Humans who were both warriors and protectors, leading a galaxy that fought as one. The final war was beginning again, but this time it would be fought not between two human factions, but between two visions of what humanity could become. The Dominion represented the path of conquest and domination. The modern Coalition represented something new, the possibility that apex predators could choose to be guardians instead of rulers. Admiral Mordak stood beside Lisa as they prepared for the first battle of the new war. "Will we win?" he asked. Lisa smiled, her enhanced tactical thinking, showing her possibilities that would have been invisible to her before the awakening. "We're not fighting to win an empire," she said. "We're fighting to protect our family." That's a very different kind of war. As the first Dominion ships crossed into Coalition territory, they were met not by subjects waiting to be reconquered, but by a galaxy full of species fighting side by side with the descendants of their ancient conquerors. The humans had awakened their warrior nature, but they had chosen to use in defense of the peace their ancestors had died to create. The battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin, and for the first time in 100,000 years, humanity would fight not for dominance, but for the right of all species to exist in freedom. The ancient war cry of the U.S. Vengeance echoed across space as humanity's descendants prepared to do what they did best, win an impossible war. Not for glory or conquest, but for the simple right to protect the home they had chosen to build together.